What's happening, everybody? Jeff Lightsy Jr. here with the Black Boss channel. Now, this story is pretty interesting. We know that James Harden more than likely is going to get traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Hell, by the time you see this video, he might already be a Brooklyn Net. The deal is almost done. It's just a lot to be exchanged because Harden is such a big-time player and he's got all these years and all this money left on his deal. But he turned down $50 million a year to stay in Houston. He's going to Brooklyn. This is how this is how the NBA works since the LeBron James decision. Players, when they want out of a team and want out of a deal and want to get traded, they normally get traded, and they normally get traded to the team they want to go to. Anthony Davis wanted out. He wanted to go to the Lakers. He became a Laker. Carmelo Anthony wanted to get out. He wanted to be a Knick. He became a Knick. LeBron James wanted to go to Miami. Went to Miami. Wanted to go to Cleveland. He went to Cleveland. Wanted to go to the Lakers. He went to the Lakers. Like, this is what the stars in the league do. When they want out of a situation, Kevin Durant leaves and goes to Golden State and then leaves again and goes to Brooklyn. When they want out, when they want to go to a destination, they get there by any means necessary. Even if they have, in James Harden's case, 3 years left on their deal. They go to where they want to go. This just happens. They don't always get to dictate when they get there, but they're going to end up being there. Anthony Davis wanted to get to LA in the middle of not this past season, but the year before. They waited to the offseason. It doesn't matter. They always end up in their spot. But going back to James Harden, so he's going to be a Brooklyn Net. It's just a matter of time at this point. But to listen to why he and Westbrook want to leave Houston, it gets deeper than just not wanting to play in a rebuild mode, just not wanting to play for a new GM, just not wanting to play for a new head coach. It actually goes to the owner. It goes all the way up to the ownership and the owner's ties to Donald Trump. So Rick Bucher, who is an established NBA reporter, has come out and said that not just Westbrook and Harden want out of Houston, there's a lot of other players that are wanting a revolt. And it's because of Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Houston Rockets, has been the owner since 2017, is a MAGA man. He is a Trump supporter. And that is why a lot of these young black athletes on this team want off of Houston. And that is huge, right? Here's what Rick Bucher went on to say. So Tillman Fertitta, if you guys don't know, he owns the Dining and Hospitality Corporation, Landry's Inc., right? He's a billionaire. All the sports owners are billionaires, and he purchased the Rockets back in 2017. So he hasn't been a owner in the NBA for very long. But here's what Rick Bucher had to say about Tillman Fertitta and the revolt that's happening in Houston. It's not just James Harden. It's not just Russell Westbrook. I did a video talking about how PJ Tucker wants out, Daniel House wants out, Eric Gordon is not happy, like Austin Rivers is not happy, and it just seemed like a contract thing or the stars wanting to leave was part of the reason. But it's actually because the owner is a Donald Trump supporter. Now listen to this. Rick Bucher said on the Odd Couple podcast with Chris Broussard and Rob Parker, shout out Chris Broussard, that there's a revolt happening. I immediately thought Daryl Morey leaving and Mike D'Antoni leaving and Russell Westbrook and James Harden going. No offense to Steven Silas and Raphael Stone, who's the new coach and GM, but we don't want a starter kit. Like, that's what he thought. He thought that they just didn't want to play for a new head coach who's his first-year head coach, his first time being an NBA coach, and a first-time GM, first time being a GM anywhere. But it's actually, but what I heard is, and we know how much politics and political position had to do with the boycott and protest in the NBA bubble. I'm hearing that Tillman Fertitta's strong Republican support and donations is one of the things that has contributed to the dissatisfaction of those of Westbrook and Harden, and they're not the only ones that went out of Houston. Lesser players are of the same mind. There is a revolt here because they look at Fertitta as a guy who supports the current president, who supports Donald Trump. That is a bombshell, right? Like, because we've seen politics in sports, right? Donald Trump, his presidency, before Donald Trump was the president, we always saw teams go to the White House, especially during Obama. I think during the Obama administration, the most teams ever, by a wide margin, visited the White House after their championships or whatever, right? Like, so the most teams ever. And then Donald Trump, I think, has been the least amount of teams ever during this 4-year during a 4-year span to visit the White House. And we saw Donald Trump attack ESPN reporters. He saw him attack Jamil Hill and different people, attack Colin Kaepernick. So he's always stuck his nose into sports. And we know people want politics and sports to be separate, but Donald Trump seemed to always make them collide. And we've seen players and coaches and, ownership. We know that ownership, they have billions of dollars and they donate to these campaigns. So Tillman Fertitta isn't the only Trump supporter in the NBA. Like we know this. Like, we see MAGA hats on players. We see MAGA hats on owners. Like, they go to the rallies. Like, he's not the only one. So that's why it's so interesting to me that Tillman Fertitta is catching all this slack for being a Donald Trump supporter. What I think, now this is just me coming up with a conspiracy or whatever you want to call it, what I think, it's a combination of all of it, and Tillman Fertitta is what is the word I'm looking for? Like bombastic. Like he's very outgoing, outlandish with his support for Trump. And I think that is what's rubbed those players the wrong way. You combine the fact that they lost their coach, they lost their GM, and this team is clearly in rebuilding mode. Westbrook wants it out. Like Westbrook and Harden are still buddies, right? But they just realized Westbrook and Harden are still buddies, but they just realized that they don't fit. They don't work together as players. They're not going to maximize their potential as players and as a team playing together. So they've come to that understanding. They've come to that conclusion. It's all good, but it's all love between the two. So nothing is, no love lost is there. But this man being a Trump supporter, and that's what's breaking up this team, is pretty incredible, because we've seen Robert Kraft in New England. And now the NFL and the NBA is totally different. I will say that. Robert Kraft is the one that comes to mind, but I'm sure there's a number of other NBA coaches, of other NBA players, of other NBA owners that support Donald Trump. That would, I mean, 75 million people, or 70 million, over 70 million people voted for Donald Trump in this election. So that, I mean, if Biden wouldn't have got a historic number of votes, like that was no president has ever gotten 70 million votes before this year. So over 70 million people voted for Donald Trump. So we know that the people within NBA and NFL organizations are Trump supporters. But to hear that that's what's breaking up this team is pretty incredible, to see politics and sports actually collide. As much as fans, a lot of fans don't like them to collide, they're actually colliding this point, and it's breaking up this team. And I wonder how that's going to play, Tillman Fertitta's association with Donald Trump, how that's going to play moving forward. Because as we know, Donald Trump isn't the president anymore. He won't be the president after January, the inauguration date in January. The president-elect is Joe Biden. So will that prevent the Rockets from garnering more free agents? We see that it's clearly broken up this team. Like, we see that. Like, the writing's already on the wall. Westbrook's on his way out the door. Harden, by the time you watch this video, may already be a Brooklyn Net. But will that play a factor in the way they lure and attract free agents moving forward? That's a very interesting thing to look at. Tillman Fertitta being a MAGA man, being a Trump supporter, is what's breaking up his team. And that's not good for business. It's just not at all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Once again, I'm Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss channel. We post every single day. I'll see you next time.